Join me as I explore the Kenting Peninsula, the most southern point of the island of Taiwan. I'll delve into the lesser-known history where the giants of China and Japan clashed, forming the unique culture and history of this land. I'll also explore the natural wonders of the beautiful Kenting National Park.
So we are now officially at the west coast of the Kenting Peninsula. We have spent the majority of the journey, well, all of the journey up until now, basically coming down the east coast, seeing what that has to offer. We're now on the west coast. You're just gorgeous, aren't you? Alright, so this one here cost me 1,000. That's wild, dude. I actually saw it was going for 800 earlier today. It's Tuesday, so like obviously not that many people are gonna come here on a Tuesday, but far out, bro. 330 NT for that. That's not bad. But it's that brunch at the little cute brunch restaurant, right? The only problem with it is it lays outside the city walls. So at any time we could be attacked by vagabonds or barbarians or bandits. So we must be vigilant. I didn't realize this, but a pretty decent chunk of the city wall here, this is Hongqiang City in Kenting, a big chunk of the city wall remains intact, which is quite uncommon. Well, I think it might be the only place in Taiwan that still has the wall. Because in a lot of places they have the old gatehouses still intact, but I think this is the only place that has so much of the wall remaining. And it's quite cool for my purposes because part of why I wanted to come down here is I wanted to talk about the history, right? And this wall here was built exactly for what I wanted to talk about. This was the settlement was built around 1874 after the Mudan incident. So I read online they still have about 1/3 of the wall. I know that one of the gates is just it's kind of like what they tend to do with the old walls, like they just build a roundabout around the gate to show it off, but like the wall goes for quite a while that way. It's kind of like a gap in it there, but then it starts up again. So they really preserved quite a lot of it here. It's quite cool. So these walls were built after the Mudan incident, and basically what was happening at this time is that the Qing dynasty was in a terrible state. They had suffered some pretty humiliating losses against European powers, such as during the Opium Wars with the British when they seized Hong Kong from the Qing dynasty. And at the same time, the formerly isolated feudal empire of Japan was rapidly industrializing. And so after the Mudan incident, the Japanese showed not only were they now capable of foreign military interventions, but that they were also eyeing up territory that belonged to the Qing dynasty in order to expand their own imperial presence. The Qing dynasty was in the sights now not only of these foreign European powers, but also of Japan. And so the Qing dynasty realized that their current position on Taiwan, which is basically to control the west of the island, to stop piracy and to stop, you know, things they believe to be criminal, they now recognize that perhaps the colonization of Taiwan to shore up their position could help defend them against the Japanese. And so before this period, a place like the Kenting Peninsula would have basically been you know, the Wild West. It would have been controlled almost entirely by indigenous people or by Chinese settlers that were basically here illegally or just completely outside of Qing dynasty control. And so settlements like this were built to reassert control over Taiwan. So here, I'm in front of a famous lighthouse in Taiwan. Now, but you might be thinking, why show us a lighthouse? I've seen a lighthouse before, they're kind of cool, but why show us this one? Well, this lighthouse is a lighthouse with a lot of history, right? And it's because of two incidences that I've mentioned before, two international incidents. The first was the rover incident, in which an American crewed ship ran aground near Kenting, and the entire crew were massacred by Taiwan warriors. And the Taiwan warriors had the Taiwan people and many of the indigenous Taiwanese people had a tradition of headhunting, where they would decapitate people and keep their heads as trophies, right? And so the Taiwan people did this to the American crew, and of the I think the ship was called the Rover. And so the Americans in 1867 sent out a punitive expedition to hunt down the Taiwan people who had done this. The Americans landed, where they met several Taiwanese tribespeople on the beach. They exchanged fire, and the Americans charged the Taiwan. The Taiwan retreated into the forests. Americans gave chase. The Taiwan would continuously ambush the Americans, not inflicting any casualties. The Americans were wearing heavy uniforms designed to keep them warm at sea. And so in the tropical heat of southern Taiwan, well, they didn't fare very well. They would have been sweating, would have been hard to get fresh drinking water. Anyway, they continued their pursuit until after one ambush, the American commander was killed. After that, the remaining Marines said, well, I think it's time to go. They weren't inflicting any damage upon the Taiwan people. They were just getting ambushed in the jungles and becoming delirious and dehydrated from the heat in their heavy uniforms. The Mudan incident in 1874 was a similar incident, but this time with a Japanese crew, which led to the Japanese invasion of, you know, the same territory here in Kenting. And that Japanese invasion really changed the Qing dynasty's view of Taiwan, where basically before it would have been seen as completely irrelevant to the Qing dynasty's interests. But of course, following that, it became very important. And so one of the things they did is they set out to build a lighthouse. But like mentioned before, this area was controlled by the Taiwan, who were very militaristic and who resented the presence of Chinese colonists. And so they didn't just build a lighthouse, they built a fortified lighthouse. One of the only lighthouses in the world to ever be fortified. And you see here are some ditches to protect it. You've got towers on every corner. The lighthouse was destroyed in 1895 by the retreating Qing dynasty. They blew it up because in 1895 Qing dynasty ceded Taiwan to the Japanese. The Japanese rebuilt it, and it was then heavily bombed during World War II. And then following the nationalist retreat and occupation and colonization of Taiwan, the Chinese nationalists, the Kuomintang, this final structure was built. So it's got elements of Qing dynasty, the Japanese Empire, and the Republic of China, which would eventually become the modern state of Taiwan. So from what I read, the lighthouse is actually still in use, and it's meant to be the most powerful lighthouse in Taiwan. So that's kind of cool. So you got like a barracks for when the soldiers were here and stuff. Bit of a narrow gorge. Well, it's definitely narrow. There's more. Oh my god. Probably I should have mentioned earlier, all of this is part of the Kenting National Park. Kenting National Park is kind of just the whole southern tip here. So we have here the Mystery Cave. If you put the word like mystery or secret on something, I am bound to check it out. So let's have a look at the mystery cave. What? Am I gonna fit? It's tiny, man. Let's try it. Alright. That was pretty mysterious. I'll give them that. Not a very good mystery, but mysterious nonetheless. Alright. Well, I felt a really good treat to come here. This is the southernmost point of Taiwan. There it is. Nowhere to go from here but the open ocean. If you go that way, you'll be in the Philippines eventually. Right, I come to the Shaowan beach. I think that's what it's called, I don't know. Anyway, I came down to this beach in Kenting to show why I actually kind of don't like Kenting. Like, I've been here before, I just didn't like the vibe of it at all. And so Kenting's famous for like beaches for swimming and stuff, right? But if you look out there, like maybe 10 meters from the coast, they've got buoys. And that's like the restricted swimming area, right? If you try swimming outside of like a registered water activity, you go past that like 10-meter line, the lifeguards will call you back in. You're not allowed to go swimming out there, right? And you look at from afar, the sand looks quite pretty, but it's really quite coarse, right? The color of it looks nice, but it's really coarse. If you come look at the water, it's like brownish, like a brownish green. Like, is this me or is that kind of gross? And I think I can see where the brownish green color is coming from. So that's feeding right out into the ocean. So I think if you want to go to the beach in Taiwan, don't come to Kenting. Go to Waiao, go to Fongliao. There's other places to go. Remember, this is a beach in Kenting. No fun allowed. The scenery is gorgeous, right? But again, this sand, quite coarse. Looks really nice from afar. Looks like a nice sandy beach, but it's very, very coarse, right? So if you're swimming in this water, which I mean you're not actually meant to, you're allowed to swim up there, I think, because they got lifeguards, but down here it's, you know, no fun allowed. This is the fun-free zone. You can kind of see it, right? There's heaps of debris in the water. And so if you're trying to swim in there, it's all splashing up on you. It's just not a pleasant place to go swimming, right? It's a nice beach. It's fine to come and relax. Like, you bring your beach towel or bloody umbrella and all that, you're golden. If you want to go swimming, I would not come to Kenting, to be honest. So I'm just passing through Hong Chun again on my way up to Pingdong, and because I saw online like the best preserved part of the wall is actually here at the North Gate, and it goes for quite a while, like down this way. See, yeah, it goes all the way like down there, quite some time. There's like another battlement bastion thing down there. That's really cool. I don't know how far it goes this way. I just think that's really cool. I think that's neat.